And we are live. Welcome everyone to a new webinar. I am Chris Peters. I'm the founder and CEO of DataMinded, and I have a guest with me.
Hi, thank you, Chris. I am Miruna. I'm the product marketing manager at DataMinded. Really excited to be here with you, Chris.
All right. I hope everyone can hear us. If you can, please put in the chat that actually sound and video and everything is okay.
Yeah. Maybe wait a few minutes. I see people already started joining. They are still joining. I can see.
All right. Cool.
You can use, so there's a chat section here that you can use if you want to let us know if something is wrong technically.
All right. Cool. I'll propose to get started. I indeed see more people joining as we speak, but there'll be plenty more. So yeah, the topic of today is we call it CTRL-Z for data chaos, bringing governance to Databricks. And it's with our learnings of how we work with clients who use Databricks day to day, and when their environment grows, they come into certain challenges, if you will, right? So the agenda of today is we're first going to talk about the innovation paradox. Miruna will explain a bit what she meant by that, and how does that apply to Databricks environments. And then we're also going to come with solutions, because webinars should not only be about problems, but also solutions. How to better structure teams and data. And then finally, we're also going to bring this to practice, like how do we apply these learnings in the data product portal that we built, specifically for our biotech use case. All right, with that, let's kick it off. Miruna, can you explain what you mean with the innovation paradox?
Yeah, so the innovation paradox is this idea that you see playing out in a lot of industries where there's a lot of excitement when people start building something new, when they explore new ideas. Typically, it starts with a lot of freedom. You see that maybe now in conversations around AI use cases. So there's really a lot of energy. So innovation at its start is very free. It's people get access to the tools that they want to use. And so as it becomes more successful, as the use cases we're working on become more and more successful, then of course the tendency is, well, we should invest more resources in it. So we investing more resources means bringing in new people, but also bringing in new tooling. And so as we add more and more resources, tools, and people, we see complexity grow. As the complexity grows, we see things start to get messier and messier. And then, of course, the speed is then affected. So things become slower and slower until at some point we see, well, innovation slows down. So we see this playing out in many areas, including data. And so we can actually, looking at companies that are using Databricks, we can see this as a small example. How does this happen with Databricks adoption across data science teams? And Chris is going to explain.
Exactly. Yeah, thanks for that context, because it's indeed true what we see if we apply this to companies we see using Databricks, but really the same can be applied to all technologies. This is not Databricks specific, right? But usually they start off with one Databricks workspace, right? Where the whole data science team is logged into that workspace. They can see all the data, they can get access to all the clusters in that workspace, do all the jobs, do all the notebooks. And life is pretty good. I mean, as long as you can keep having one data science team doing everything, mostly you're happy. The problem, of course, is, and it's also the opportunity, is that use cases grow, companies grow, and you as the single data science team quickly become the bottleneck, and you quickly find out that there's multiple teams who want access to the data. Maybe not even just data scientists, but also data analysts, data engineers. And you need to work together across teams. The cool thing is that Databricks launched a relatively new feature called Unity Catalog. So instead of having everybody work in their isolated workspace, now it's possible. We think it's a very, very cool feature that you set up a Unity Catalog and you use it across different workspaces. So you get the possibility to collaborate over multiple teams with that same catalog, right? And life is happy again, especially if you only have two teams. It's still fairly manageable, right? But then again, it becomes larger and larger. And then what you see is that companies come to this kind of setup, where Databricks recommends to using catalogs to provide segregation again across your organization information architecture. where this picture you have one meta store, and that meta store holds multiple catalog, and each catalog can be used by one or more workspaces, and then a team or a group can have access to one or more workspaces. By the way, it's not something that we made up. This comes straight from the Databricks documentation. There's a link I posted below. This is how they recommend like a good setup, and I think this makes a lot of sense, but it comes with its own downsides, right? So, for instance, you have a lot of workspaces, and you have what we call a proliferation, a difficult word, of workspaces. It becomes more difficult to see which data is actually being used where, for which purpose. We talk to a lot of data teams that if they want data access or they want access to a certain catalog or part of the catalog, it takes weeks or even months to just get access to it. And it's still hard to reuse data across different teams, right? Because they're all in their own workspace and all in their own catalogs. So that becomes a bit complex, right? And Miruna, if I'm not mistaken, you interviewed quite a lot of people who are having this problem, and you put a bunch of quotes together, right?
Yeah. Actually, I did talk to some people. So we are data minded. We have data engineers and data scientists that are working closely with customers that have Databricks workspaces set up, and they've explained some of the challenges that they're facing. So this is coming from data engineers, analysts, scientists, platform engineers, even strategy consultants and advisors and architects that are kind of handling all of this complexity. I kept hearing kind of the same messages coming from all sides, and it all has to do, especially with this idea that is captured, I think, in the last quote that I actually really liked, because I can feel the urgency behind it and the frustration behind it. So it's not really many times technology problem that people are facing as complexity grows, but it's actually really felt as a people problem. And so one of the people that I've interviewed said, if we could find the technology that would help us to have fewer people problems, that would be gold when it comes to these sort of things. So and the rest is a lot that has to do with permission settings and waiting a long time for access and things like that. Yeah. So it's repeat messages coming from various people.
Yeah, so the point is, like any organization, if you grow in size and you have more teams, your technology landscape becomes complex. Well, and again, it's not like Databricks is bad in a way or something. You would have the same in Snowflake, or if you use Fabric or EMR, or whatever. It's the same across tools. So what can we actually do about it? Well, we want to explain 3 concepts that you need to keep in mind, like from a, say, theoretical point of view, and then we'll dive into how this practically plays out, right? But first and foremost, organize data by business area. What do I mean by that? So we're going to show an example of a biotech company. Imagine they have a clinical domain, they have a proteomics domain. You have to Google what that meant. It's apparently the study of proteins. I don't know. And you have a manufacturing domain, and they all have their own data sets and their own data products, and they want to collaborate with each other. It's important to think in data in terms of data domains and not in terms of technical architecture. So what you shouldn't do is say, okay, all raw data goes into this bucket and all clean data goes into that bucket and all master data. I think that, or bronze, silver, gold, that idea works well if you have a single team. If you go across domains, that idea has its limits, right? But you can say all proteomics data goes here and all clinical data goes there, right? The benefit is that it's very natural where the ownership boundary is very clear responsibility. Like if you work in the proteomics domain, you're responsible for the proteomics data. If you work in the clinical domain, you're not. And it's also easier to do access management on that higher level, right? So that's step 1, organize data by business domain.
Yeah, maybe Chris, before you go to, no, just before you go, because it's a nice transition. I wanted to remind everybody there's a Q&A box in there. So please, if you think of questions while Chris is explaining and talking, just drop them in there. We will take them at the end of the session, because then we will reach the end and it would be nice to find all your questions in there. So this was just a reminder, so you can go to the next.
Exactly. Thank you, Miruna. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. Thank you. So next tip is think in terms of data products. I think if you've been following us for a while now, we've been preaching this for a while. And of course, we didn't invent this. It was Zhamak Dalghani who came first with the idea of data products. By now, I think it's 2016 or so. No, 2018. No, not 2016. When did she came up with data products? Maybe 2020. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It wasn't us who invented this. The point is, like a data product, we like to visualize it in this way as a sphere where you have input data on the left that you want to consume on the top left. You have data that you want to produce on the top right. And then you might have some intermediary data, some private data that you want to handle that is only visible to you. Some people call this bronze, silver, gold, these layers, where you can call it whatever you want. But these are the three kinds of data you have. Your data you want to consume, data that's only used for internal use, and data you want to output, you want to share with the rest of the world. But a data product is more than data. It's also a collection of tools that you use to produce that data set, and also the people who work on that data, right? So treat data as a product with input and output and a clear interface. So don't just think in terms of I need access to this database or this table. No, say I want to consume this data product. I want to consume the output of this data product, if you will. The benefit is that data sharing is explicit and controlled on a level that the business understands, if you will. Access is granted to outputs versus to all domains. And there's some version changes, trackable usage, right? So you can see if I ask access to table 1, yeah, that doesn't mean much. But if I say I work on this use case and I want to consume the output of that other use case, someone can reason about that, right? Someone can say, like, does that make sense or doesn't it make sense? So that's tip 2, and then tip 3 is automate the governance. So once you set up those rules around who can do what, here's a picture of a data product producing certain data sets, and those data sets are then consumed by other data products. So make compliance a part of least resistance. So make governance invisible. So you should by default make it very easy for people to start consuming from each other in a way that you don't block them. So don't go like, hey, submit the ticket here and wait 2 weeks and we'll investigate. No. There should be, as it says, like request and receive access through self-service portal. And of course, we're going to come to that in a bit, but it should be very easy for people. It shouldn't be locked down in a ServiceNow ticket or something. It should be part of the day-to-day business is working with data. And as Miruna said, I cannot imagine or cannot overstate like the amount of companies we know that struggle to just find out which data there is and how they can consume it and who's responsible for that data. It's even in this day and age, it's a huge set, right? So the benefits, as it says, it's faster automated permissions, there's consistent policy enforcement, and there is some built-in complete audit trail, so you know who has asked access for what reason, right? Maybe Miruna, you wanted to give a quick word of advice here or caution before we dive in?
Yeah, this is also an idea that came through in conversations, and we work at Data-Minded with a lot of large organizations, large enterprises. You see different teams in different departments. So, you know, there's this question, how do you start? And it's an idea that came out of conversations with people that are actually doing the work, and it's always an advice to start small and then scale smart. So just choose one of your business area as a functional domain, and then get an early proof of success with one domain, and then expand from there to different other departments. And I think it's an important idea to bring forth, because we discuss about these things, but yeah, how does it actually apply to large organizations? It's
Exactly. And so these principles to think in terms of domains, think in terms of data products, and automate the governance, you can do it with whichever tool you like, right? That's also the quote that you said, like, we have a people and process problem, not a tool problem. So I think if you take nothing else away from this, you can start doing that today with the tools you have, right? That being said, we did build the data product portal. It's an open source tool, and it's a tool that helps you in these processes, right? So what is the data product portal? It's an open source project. And what does it provide? It's a guided setup for creating data products, with proper approval processes like self-service access for tools for data professionals, control and oversight for business. It also enables governance by design, and it is for data initiatives at scale, right? If you have 2 or 3 use cases, you have one team, like you don't need it. But if you start finding the troubles that we just explained, then the data product portal could be a solution. We'll switch to a demo in a bit, but quickly, what we just said, how does this map to the portal, like organized data by business area? On the portal landing page, you can easily see for each data product which business area they belong to. You can group them together, and you can kind of get a nice overview. Data product thinking in itself, you get a nice view of all the data products in your landscape, which outputs they produce, how those outputs depend on other data products, and so forth. And it's automated in a way that you can do the approval process right in the portal, right? So you can ask for approval to consume a data set, you can ask for approval to join a team, and so forth. And you also get access to the tools. Like if you, from there, you wanna access Databricks to the right workspace where this data product is running, you can just click it there, and it works out of the box. So to demo this, we set up a very simple demo story. So imagine there's a big biotech company, and they have 2 domains. They have the proteomics domain and the clinical domain. The proteomics domain, they produce demand and forecast data, and that demand and forecast data is consumed by the clinical domain in another data product called the R&D pipeline. So I'll pretend to be the proteomics engineer, and I produce the demand and forecast data. And then Miruna, you'll be the R&D, the clinical person, and you will consume that data, right? So that's the idea.
Yeah.
I see some Q&A popping up.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A, but I think, let me see if there's anything to attend to before we go into the demo.
Yeah.
No, they seem to be pretty extensive questions, so let's take them at the end, I would say.
All right.
Take them during the Q&A session at the end. Meantime, please, if you think of other questions, maybe during the demo, if you have something, just leave it in the Q&A chat, and we'll take them at the end.
Cool.
We'll move to the demo now.
Yeah. So again, I'm the person working in proteomics, and I go to my dashboard. Here is the data product portal, and I see my list of data products here. I see which business area they belong to, like proteomics or clinical, what type it is, who has access to it, who consumes it, so forth, what does it produce. So let's go to this data product of demand and forecast. The nice thing is I can say, look, I want to see how this looks like, and it might be a bit intimidating, but what you see is this data product consumes 2 data outputs, histology data and some other data, that produce 2 data sets as output. And that data set, again, produces 2 outputs, and an output can belong to multiple data sets. It's maybe a technical thing, but you can have data sets, more a logical grouping of outputs, and then they produce an output, and then that output here, the demand forecast data, is used by other data products, here the R&D program pipeline, right? So this is, I'm here in demand forecast. I am one of the data product owners of this thing, and if I then go to R&D, I say I want to see this data product. It takes the histology clinical data, again the demand forecast data, and it produces this output data set, right? And here we see Miruna is one of the data product owners here. So I don't have access here. I cannot click on Databricks, but I can go back to the demand and forecast one, view data sets, and then say, okay, view data product. Now I'm here in my data product, and let's say I want to work on this. So what I do is I open my Databricks account. Yeah, it's a very simple example, but one of the outputs here is table 1. And here you see in table 1, it's if I zoom in a bit, well, it's very slow. But if I zoom in a bit, I see the portal demand forecast plot has a schema called or database or a schema called demand results, and there's a table 1 in there, right? So I can look into the permissions, and I am logged in as Chris, so I have modify and select permissions on this table, right? Which is kind of as expected. Oh, I didn't want to open a dashboard. sorry. Let's go back. Sorry. Let's just say I want to create a query based on this. So I just want to query the data that's in here. Select star from table 1. It's very basic, but I should be able to. But since I'm also the owner, I can also write to this data, right? So now if I say delete from table 1 where age equals 4. So let's say the example, execute this. It's a bit slow, but it will work, right? We'll say, yeah. Executing. It's probably a lot of data that needs to be deleted. Now, 2 rows. So 2 rows, number of affected rows 2. So this is what I expect. I work in the in the proteomics domain. This is a data product in that domain. I can read and write to the output of that data product. By the way, you could set policies like developer, you can only read and write in dev, not only like your automated pipeline can write in prod, stuff like that. But for the sake of the example, this is Happy Days. Now we're going to switch screens to Miruna. She's in the clinical domain and she wants to consume this data, right? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Miruna, if you can share yours.
Share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in data products. I will go to the demand and forecast. I'm in the clinical, so I'm not here. If I go to team, I'm not here.
Yeah.
So I cannot go to Databricks. But I will go to the R&D program pipeline, which is the use case that my team is working on. You can already see me here. I'm a data owner. So now I should be able to go to my Databricks workspace.
Yeah.
And
you also switch the tabs.
I have to switch. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. So now I'm in my Databricks workspace. And in here, what do we want to show? I go again to the table 1?
That's the exact same table.
The same table that Chris was just in. And if we go to, I guess, permissions, we can see my level of permissions here.
It's only select.
So it's only select, yes.
Exactly.
And then do we want to show?
If you want to.
So this is already here. So I want to say delete. What was it? What was the query like?
Delete from table 1 where
age is something.
I think age is capitalized, no?
Age is 50.
Yeah.
Let's see if that's.
And then don't forget the semicolons.
Semicolons, yes.
Yeah, you get a syntax error now, but if you run again, it should say you're not allowed to delete table.
I should not be allowed, indeed.
Exactly. Permission denied.
Yeah, yes, which is what we were expecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I think this is good. I'm going to stop sharing now here.
Yeah. Thanks. I'll quickly go back to my screen just to explain again what we did now. So it's very simple. Like I work in the month and forecast. I produce this data output. I'm allowed to read and write from it. This data output is then being consumed by another data product where Maria's working on, and she can read from it. She cannot write to it, right? And so this is all what you set here in the portal is translated to underlying Databricks permissions.
Indeed.
So yeah, maybe going back to the demo story, this is the picture that we wanted to show, to have multiple teams collaborate. This can scale, right? So tomorrow you have 5 teams, you have 100 data products. The logic is still the same. Also, if you have some teams using Databricks, other teams using Snowflake, teams using God, what have you, like the concept is also the same, right? Maybe now is a good time to switch to Q&A.
Yes, let's have a look at the Q&A. So we did I put them in there. The first 2 questions, we got them from people that registered ahead of time, and I have a new, a question made up of 2 parts that just came in. So if you can think of any other questions, just leave it in the Q&A while we are addressing the first.
Yeah.
So question from viewer 1 that came before. So they say half of our teams use notebooks, others use DBTs, Python scripts. So it's not just Databricks that we use. How do you bring governance to this sort of complex tool landscape is the question.
Yeah, so as I quickly mentioned, the data product portal is completely tool agnostic. And whether you use the portal or you build your own solution doesn't really matter. You should never tie into a specific technology. So Databricks has its own set of permissions. We use Starburst at other companies. We use Snowflake, Azure Fabric. We use Synapse. We use a whole bunch of tools, and they all have their own permission model. I think you as an organization need to think about what is a data product for you? How does this translate to permissions? And that is a model you need to implement. So the same here, whether it translates to Databricks or to something else, it's really just implementation detail, right? So I hope that answers the questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the next one is who defines what a valid data product is?
Yeah, this is, I would even call it an internal debate. There is even a lot of discussion across clients, like what is the definition of a data product? Is it like what we showed? Is it the input data, the intermediary data, and the output data, only the data, or is it only the output data, or is it the whole thing that we drew? Is it also like the tools and the people working on a data product? Is that also part of a data product? So in essence, it boils down to there is no one correct answer, but it's important that you are in a company or aligned on what is the definition of a data product, and then some data products might be a bit bigger, some might be a bit smaller, and you need to play a bit with the granularity. I can tell you what is not a data product. Like we have clients who are like, okay, but we have one team responsible for all ingestion of all data, so we call that data product ingestion. And then we have the data product that's responsible for all, like the whole data warehouse, and we call that data product data vault. Well, then you miss the entire point, right? Because you always have like, so you need to be a bit more granular than that. So you need to be a bit more fine-grained. Then on the other hand, if for every table you produce, you're going to create a new data product with a new owner, like that creates way too much governance overhead. And so you need to think of logical boundaries that your business users also understand, not just your technical users, but your business users should go like, yeah, that's a logical unit that belongs together. Right? It's a bit of a non-answer, I know, but it's.
Yeah, I think it captures this idea. There's like there's a shift towards indeed really thinking of the business when creating data products, not just the technology and the data itself.
Cool.
So moving on, this is the question that it has two parts, and it feels quite technical to me. So based on data consuming best practices, which one is correct? Number one is doing data manipulations as much as possible in ETL layers in Databricks or so, and just left simple transformations or manipulations for visualization layer like PBI. And the second was creating an atomic star schema in Databricks and doing the rest and finalizing the consumable model in visualization layer. This
this is
sorry.
No, I am. This is also one of those eternal debates. So the question revolves around how data processing do you do as an engineer in Databricks, and how much do you leave to the user, right? Again, it depends a bit, but the two extremes are bad. Let me tell you, if like I'll first give the two extremes, and then we'll dive into more what is useful. If you go like the only thing I do is expose the data from my operational system in its rawest form, and then I leave it to whoever is building the dashboards to do whatever they want with it, then you'll have to reinvent the wheel 100 times. You have to do the same data cleaning across all dashboards. You'll have to build the same business logic across all dashboards. So clearly that is not good, right? Not doing any processing or business logic building in Databricks is not good. The other extreme, and I have to be honest here, I used to be a believer of the other extreme, where I said, a dashboard is as dumb as possible. You do all the logic and all the processing in your data pipelines because we are the engineers, we know best, ha, ha, ha. That is also bad. The reason why I thought it was good is because I said, look, we can write tests and we can automate things and we can make sure it's stable and predictable. And it is true in a way, but what we engineers lack is we lack domain expertise. So I have plenty of cases where we built a dashboard for a business unit, and it took a long time to build a dashboard. The business unit had 2 minutes to look at the dashboard. He said, that's wrong. You don't understand the logic behind it. And we had to redo it completely. So I firmly believe in, and like that extreme, like doing no logic whatsoever in dashboard is also bad. But so to come back, in terms of data product thinking, you have source data products that need to describe in a, let's say, easily readable form what is available in that source. So don't just copy the source table, but create some views or some tables that explain what is in source. And they have consumer-aligned data products that take many sources and they build a view that is easy to consume. That doesn't mean it's ready to put in a dashboard like that. You can have data products in the middle, like aggregate data products, so let's not go in there. I am a firm believer, even for consumer data products, that then there's someone called this last mile analytics, where you say, now for the last, yes, this is very aligned to what I need as a consumer. I work in finance, and this is exactly the data I need for the financial report, but I'm going to transform it a little bit, shape it a little bit, so it's easier to view in my dashboard. And then I call it last mile analytics. And that can be done in drag and drop tools, can be done in Power BI, I don't care what. The only challenge with that is all the logic that they built there, it's harder to bring back into the lakehouse, into the data lake, right? So you need to be careful that not 80% of your logic is in those drag and drop tools, because then, well, it's hard to reuse. So this is a very long answer, but basically it comes down to think in terms of data products, source aligned, consumer aligned, give dashboard people the freedom to build their own last mile analytics, but make sure whenever something is reusable across data products, make sure it comes back into one of the data products. I hope that makes sense. Good answer.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Let's move on to the next one. I see there's a new one that came in. From Flavian, who's asking, what's your opinion on organizing data this way? 2 catalogs per domain, internal and public, and schemas as data products boundaries. A group exists for each schema and access is managed there. For granular permissions, ABAC or column row level filtering.
Flavian, it's a difficult question, but you mean 2 different data unit catalogs, right? For domains. So that means if you have 10 domains, you have 20 different catalogs. I'm sure it's workable, but it's the picture. I'm going to go back to that picture. I'm going to stop the live answer. It's the picture I showed earlier. You're going to get this situation. You're going to get an explosion of catalogs. This is basically this 2 catalogs per domain, and then you have each group working on it. I cannot go back to the answer apparently. It can definitely work. And let me see here. 2 catalogs per domain and schemas data product boundaries. Yeah, schemas as data product boundaries. That's what we do as well, by the way. Per data product, you have a separate schema. But then what we do in that schema, you can have some internal tables and some like private data tables and some tables that others can read. Access is managed there for granular permission, access-based access control, or attribute-based access control. Or yeah, high level it works, Flavia. I think it is not the easiest setup. You need to build good automation around it, because soon you'll end up with many catalogs and many workspaces and many schemas. But it can definitely work. Yeah, we need to dive deeper into what exactly you're doing, but the principle is sound. I guess I don't see issues right here.
Yeah, so I see there's no more questions that are left here in the Q&A. This would be like the last call for Q&A. We did get some questions, like the first 2 that I put in there before from people that registered, but we said that the priority goes to the people that are going to be joining us live. So if you still have questions, thank you, Flavian. If you still have questions, just leave them in there. Otherwise, we could go back to the questions we received beforehand, or we are going to answer them in our follow-up emails.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is it. There are no more questions. Maybe I can take 1 or 2 from the people that sent them before. And then for the rest, if we have 5 more minutes, we will make sure to address all of them in our follow-up, so no worries. So let's see, what else did we receive? For example, one was what happens when when a data product owner leaves the company. How do you handle the transition without disrupting all the teams that depend on the data?
Yeah, typically, data product ownership should not just belong to a single person, but should belong to a group, right? And at the moment there's a new person joining it, he assumes the role of data product owner, and then he gets all the permissions that the previous data product owner had. And he also sees like the full history of what happened and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see another one. I think this has probably been covered with the content, but as he's saying, yes, we have a central data team that's drowning in requests from different departments, and they all want to move very fast. And meanwhile, we are swamped with requests. And what have you seen companies that you work with? How have you seen companies that you work with handle this?
Yeah, I think indeed a part of it is covered. I think the most important part is this. Go back to the slide.
Yeah,
is automate your governance. If every time someone puts a request, you manually have to do something. One is very fragile, and you can, like, if you get 100 of those requests, for sure one of them will be wrong, and it's also hard to trace back like what you did. But also it's time consuming. So if you get one request, it's not automated, maybe it's fine. But if you get 3 requests, start thinking about automation. And of course, like things like the data product portal is a very like elaborate way of how to automate these things. But you can also start with a very simple Terraform script that does this. And like even like all your requests, you can log them in GitHub even, and then you do a pull request. The pull request is accepted, and the moment it's accepted, it triggers off the Terraform script. And then in a way, you also have a full log of what happens, right? Or you integrate with your ticketing service, like if you have ServiceNow or whatever, that the moment someone submits a ticket that is called by some kind of API, runs, once it's approved, you do a whole bunch of automations and it's be done with it. But the key to that is automation, right? It's really, we had a client, or we still have a client, we started there last year, and the team was swamped. 85% was basically keeping the lights on, and they had no time for any kind of improvement or innovation. And if you did analysis of what is wrong, like the team was working very hard, but they never were given the chance to focus on any kind of automation, not just an access request, but also in pipeline automation or triggering jobs or ingesting new data. Everything was done manually. Of course, if you do everything manually, you very quickly become the bottleneck, right? So automation is really the key. Yeah.
Yes, I see another one is who defines what a valid data product is? They say in pharma, our requirements are different from marketing. How do you handle different standards across different departments in the same organization?
Yeah, I think we covered a very similar question earlier, but yeah, no, what I just said, and maybe just one thing I want to add, because you just said now, let pharma people or like the clinical people decide what they want to call a data product, and let other, like, sometimes you have like enterprise architects or whatever, data architects who like, no, I control what is that, I decide, and this and that. We need to go away from that notion. We are here to enable others. So we are here to give them the tools to define their own world, right? And I don't know if there's a good analogy, but in other ways, like we also don't define like how long their emails is that they write, or do they do that in 5 emails, or is it 1 email? And do they make one big Word document, or do they make it 5 different? Like they can use the tools that they want to use, right? We offer the tools, right? So maybe it's a bad analogy, but maybe more power to the people.
Yes, the rest that I see are very along the same lines. So again, new data science project means new access requests, permissions, new approvals. How do we manage all this? It's all related to permissions and approvals that we already discussed.
Yeah, it's automation. Automation.
But we can see that the stories and the struggles are quite similar, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I see. I'm quickly going to check now the Q&A live chat, see if we have new questions that came in. I don't see any new questions coming in. So I think this takes us towards the end of the webinar today.
Thank you for being here with me, Miruna.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having us. So we want to encourage you. This portal that we have discussed and demoed so far. It's a fully open source project. It's been launched a couple of months ago. We are very excited about it. We think it responds to a real need in the market. And the development team is currently working on this Databricks integration that we have presented today. And we are currently very excited about contributions. So if you believe in our story, if you believe in our mission, and you share the same sort of vision related to data product thinking and how to organize teams as you scale your data initiatives, we would very much want to encourage you to join us in our mission. And I've put all the links there. We have set up an open community on Slack that we invite you to join. We have a link to our GitHub repo in there, and you can also visit our website. And we will share all of the links with you, including the deck after the live event. So thank you very, very much for your attention today, and thank you, Chris.
Yeah. And thank you, Mirna. All right, guys.
Bye.